Good morning and welcome to episode 57 of the Anno Domini podcast. And I am dedicating this week to talk to you once again about the future. Uh, I feel this calling inside of my heart, this nudging of what I believe to be the Holy Spirit. There are tons of people, I mean, hundreds of talking heads out there, pundits talking about what is going to happen between now and November and all of the possibilities that are on the table right now. So many people saying that the Democrat Party and their allies are so silent right now that they are preparing something to bring to the world scenario. So what I mean is there are many people talking about what is going on today. I don't want to be another one talking about things that everybody talks about on the blogs, on the shows, TV shows, on the online shows, on the radio, wherever it is, on the websites. Everybody, of course, is talking about what's going on today because that's what sells, and I understand that. And since I am not here, at least not for now, I'm not here to sell you anything. I just wanted to be a voice that people can listen to, contents that people can watch, and start thinking about important things. I am not saying that what these guys are saying is not important. What I mean is that what I am focusing my content on is what is to come. Is there a way that we can just look at what the world is today, how it is like today? Can we just analyze it in a sober, in a mature way and try to prepare, right? So with that in mind, what I want to do is, and I know that many let me back up a little bit before I go there. I know that many of you out there, those who watch me, the students of the Nehemiah School of Government here, I know many people do not have time today to read books, 200, 300, 500 pages of a book or several books, but there are very, very important, very critical books being written. There have been actually in these past 20 years. Yeah, 20 years or so that are so crucial to everything that is going on today. Things that were written 20 years ago that I can see that everything that these guys wrote about 20 years ago, two decades ago, here we are. And things are so close. The reality of that we're living today is so close to what the guy wrote in the book 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, or 5 years ago. And I love books. I mean, this is something that I do for a living. I'm always looking after good books and people that are writing about things that are interesting to my expertise, everything that I do here at the school, as a student of the American history, as a student of the American government. That what I decided to do is I'd like to do to you a favor. I would like to pick up a couple of very important books, very relevant ones. I have already shown them or showed to you some of them. I'm going to tackle 5 of them this week, one each day. And let me show you which books those are. I have already shown these books to you before. So, but my purpose here is now to dive into what the authors are actually saying, because it's much more powerful, much more efficient than me talking about the books. They have a special way of writing. They have a special grammar, a special vocabulary. Each one of them are very well versed in what they do, in what they are talking about. They go deeper, much deeper than I could ever be able to go. And this is what I'm going to do this week. I'm going to read to you either the introduction or the conclusion of 5 books, one each day. And today we're going to start with The Post-American World by Fareed Zakaria. This guy is a lefty. He's a Democrat. He has been voting Democrat for his entire life. But he is one of those guys that we would say this is a smart Democrat, or the JFK type of Democrat, right? That would see the world in a very sober way. Although using his own lenses, political lenses, but boy, how powerful his words are. And this book here, The Post-American World, was written in, let me check again, I think 1991. Yeah, 1991. So you will see that a couple of pieces of information that he shows right here in the introduction of the book, it's already gone. I mean, lots of history have gone under the bridge, but you will see how correct, how to the point, how straightforward, how, like, in some cases, bullseye he was. So this is the book that I'm going to be sharing with you today and making eventual comments every now and then. The second one tomorrow is The End of the World is Just a Beginning, Mapping the Collapse of Globalization. I have shown you this book many times now, and I'm going to read the conclusion of this book from Peter Zeihan from 2021, so only 3 years ago, and what his plan and his goal was to write the book. So that is on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'm going to read to you Post-Christian Nation, the Secular Indoctrination of America. Here we go. And this is a pastor. So both of those two guys, Fareed Zakaria and Peter Zeihan, they are not Christians. And they are Democrats. They are Democrat voters. This is a pastor, and he's a Republican voter, of course, very engaged in the political life of the country. But he is writing about something that is grounded upon spiritual realities. Although I do not agree with a lot that he says in the book, because his eschatology is different from mine, but once again, he goes bullseye. He goes straight to the point in many of the issues that have been happening today. On Thursday, I'm going to be reading to you Pagan America, The Decline of Christianity and the Dark Age to Come by John Daniel Davidson. He's a Catholic guy, again, very conservative, and he is writing based on philosophy, based on history, but also based on theology. He is a theologian, although a Catholic one, but this guy is absolutely correct in his reading, his analysis of what is to come, what is in the future between now and this election and the end of this decade and the beginning of next decade. And on Friday, I'm going to read to you another pastor's book. It's Midnight in America, Confront Fear and Embrace Courage as the Final Hour Approaches, by Pastor Phil Hotzenpiller. So this is the book that I'm going to be reading to you on Friday. There we go. Let me take it. Yeah, Phil Hotzenpiller, or Pillar, probably Hotzenpiller. So these are the contents for this week. I was reading the books again and taking a major, like 36,000 view look at the books again, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to just jump into the books, dive into either the introduction or the conclusion, because they just summarize a lot that is going on today. So without further ado, let me bring to you here the 5 books. Here they are. And today we are going to start with The Post-American World by Fareed Zakaria. And let me just do that right now. So I'm going to read the introduction. The introduction is called The Rise of the Rest. And he says, this is a book not about the decline of America, but rather about the rise of everyone else. So this, again, it's a book of 1991. This is 30 years ago, 30 plus. It is about the great transformation taking place around the world. A transformation that, though often discussed, remains poorly understood. Excuse me. This is natural, he says. Changes, even sea changes, take place gradually. Though we talk about a new era, the world seems to be one with which we are familiar. But in fact, it is very different. There have been 3 tectonic power shifts over the last 500 years. Fundamental changes in the distribution of power that had reshaped international life, politics, economics, and culture. The first was the rise of the Western world, a process that began in the 15th century and accelerated dramatically in the late 18th century. It produced modernity as we know it, science, technology, commerce, capitalism, agricultural and industrial revolutions. It also produced the prolonged political dominance of the nations of the West. The second shift, which took place in the closing years of the 19th century, was the rise of the United States of America. Soon after it industrialized, the United States became the most powerful nation since Imperial Rome, and the only one that was stronger than any likely combination of other nations. For most of the last century, the United States has dominated global economics, politics, science, and culture. For the last 20 years, that dominance has been unrivaled, a phenomenon unprecedented in modern history. We're now living through the third great power shift of the modern era. It could be called the rise of the rest. Over the past few decades, countries all over the world have been experiencing rates of economic growth that were once unthinkable. While they have had booms and busts, the overall trend has been unambiguously upward. This growth has been most visible in Asia, but is no longer confined to it. That is why to call this shift the rise of Asia does not describe it accurately. In 2006 and 2007, 124 countries grew at a rate of 4% or more. That includes more than 30 countries in Africa, 2/3 of the continent. Antoine van Agtimel, that's the name of the guy, the fund manager who coined the term emerging markets, has identified the 25 companies most likely to be the world's next large multinationals. The next great multinationals. His list includes 4 companies, each from Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, and Taiwan, 3 from India, 2 from China, and one each from Argentina, Chile, Malaysia, and South Africa. Look around you. The tallest building in the world is now in Taipei, and it will soon be overtaken by one being built in Dubai. By the way, the one in Dubai has already been built, was built, and I forgot the name of it, but it's the tallest today. That is where Tom Cruise did one of the Mission Impossible movies. The world's richest man is Mexican. Not anymore. Now it's Jeff Bezos again. The world's biggest plane is built in Russia and Ukraine. Not anymore because they are at war right now. This is 30 years ago. Its leading refinery is under construction in India, and it's already finished. And its largest factories are all in China. By many measures, London is becoming the leading financial center, and the United Arab Emirates is home to the most richly endowed investment funds. Once quintessentially American icons have been appropriated by foreigners. The world's largest ferry wheel is in Singapore. Its number one casino, it's not in Las Vegas anymore, but in Macau, which has also overtaken Vegas in annual gambling revenues. The biggest movie industry in terms of both movies made and tickets sold is Bollywood, not Hollywood anymore. Even shopping, America's greatest sporting activity, has gone global. One of the top 10 malls in the world, only one is in the United States. Or of the top 10 malls in the world, only one is in the United States. The world's biggest is in Beijing, China. Such lists are arbitrary, but it is striking that only 10 years ago, America was at the top in many, if not most, of these categories. It might seem strange to focus on growing prosperity when there are still hundreds of millions of people living in desperate poverty. But in fact, the share of people living on $1 a day or less plummeted from 40% in 1981 to 18% in 2004, and it is estimated to fall to 12% by 2015. China's growth alone has lifted more than 400 million people out of poverty. By the way, Peter Zion is going to say that was true. Again, this book was written 30 years ago, but now China is entirely collapsing. Poverty is failing. Poverty is falling in countries housing 80% of the world's population. The 50 countries where the Earth's poorest people live are basket cases that need urgent attention. In the other 142 countries, which include China, India, Brazil, Russia, Indonesia, Turkey, Kenya, and South Africa, the poor are slowly being absorbed into productive and growing economies. For the first time ever, we are witnessing genuinely global growth. This is creating an international system in which countries in all parts of the world are no longer objects or observers, but players in their own right. It is the birth of a truly global order. A related aspect of this new era is the diffusion of power from states to other actors. The rest, quote unquote, that is rising includes many non-state actors. Groups and individuals have been empowered, and hierarchy, centralization, and control are being undermined. Functions that were once controlled by governments are now shared with international bodies like the World Trade Organization and the European Union. Non-governmental groups are mushrooming every day on every issue in every country. Corporations and capital are moving from place to place, finding the best location in which to do business with, regarding some governments while punishing others. Terrorists like Al-Qaeda, drug cartels, insurgents, and militias of all kinds are finding space to operate within the nooks and crannies of the international system. Power is shifting away from nation states up, down, and sideways. Power is shifting from nation states up, I'm repeating myself, up, down, and sideways. In such an atmosphere, the traditional applications of national power, both economic and military, have become less effective. The emerging international system is likely to be quite different from those that have preceded it. 100 years ago, and he's talking about 1991, so he's talking about 1891, the turn of the century, right? 100 years ago, there was a multipolar order run by a collection of European governments with constantly shifting alliances, rivalries, miscalculations, and wars. Then came the bipolar duopoly of the Cold War, more stable in many ways, but with the superpowers reacting and overreacting to each other's every move. Since 1991, we have lived under an American imperium or empire, a unique unipolar world in which the open global economy has expanded and accelerated dramatically. Peter Zion calls that the dominance of the United States of America's navy all across the world, right? This expansion is now driving the next, changing the nature of the international order. At the political military level, we remain in a single superpower world. But in every other dimension, industrial, financial, educational, social, and cultural, the distribution of power is shifting, moving away from American dominance. That does not mean we are entering an anti-American world, but we are moving into a post-American world, one defined and directed by many places and by many people. What kinds of opportunities and challenges do these changes present? What do they portend for the United States of America and its dominant position? What will this new era look like in terms of war and peace, economics and business, ideas and culture? In short, and he ends here his introduction, what will it mean to live in a post-American world? So Peter Zion's going to, so tomorrow we're going to be reading Peter Zion. So Peter Zion is writing the book almost 30 years later, and he is going to confirm what Zechariah wrote 30 years ago. But of course, he is going to bring us the changes, the transformations through which the world have undergone throughout these past 3 decades. So my point here is, instead of just getting into the nukes and crannies, as he said, of what is going on right now, is Trump going to win? Is Kamala going to win? There is a bigger subject here, which is the United States of America. And to me, right now, it is very, very clear as the sunrise, that the world is going to have to cope with, to deal with the reality, the fact of a post-American globe, right? A post-Christian American reality. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the end of the world is just a beginning once again. But instead of talking about it, I'm going to be reading the conclusion, the last parts or pages of this book, which summarizes so much of what we are up against right now and what is in our horizon. So I am bringing that to your attention so that our minds are not only focused and completely overwhelmed with everything that is happening right now. And we watch the media and we see, websites, and we read everything and we listen to a lot of folks. And this may overburden us with so much and create a sense of anxiety and freaking out, right? And disturbance. And we don't want that. We want peace in our hearts, first of all, by knowing that our sovereign God rules over all the nations, and he establishes kings, the king that he wants, and he removes the king he doesn't want. He is there sitting on his throne, and he is going to be sitting there, Jesus, on the right hand of the Father, and he is going to be sitting there until every single enemy is put under his feet. So in terms of Jesus's way of seeing, of looking at the planet as his kingdom, I believe, and the Word of God shows me clear signs for that, clear directions, that he is a multi-generational God. What he does here today, He has in mind 1,000 years later or 500 years into the future. What he does in our lives today, he wants that to somehow affect the 10th, the 1,000th generation in the future. He is a God of generations. So my mind has been focusing on the future. I'm really wired right now, as we speak, to seek the Lord with all my heart and to harmonize my intentions, my analysis, my mind, the function of my brain, to harmonize it to the Word of God and to whatever He is getting ready to do in the world, in the global scenario, not only in the United States of America, but the ripple effects of that, the reverberations of what is going to happen here are going to be felt all across the globe. So with that, I'm wrapping up this first day of the week. And again, I forgot to say that in the beginning. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope the Lord blesses you for this week, the whole week. And tomorrow we are going to be back with the second book, The End of the World is Just the Beginning. May God bless you and see you there.